Hey, Lovey, how are you? Oops, can you hear me?
Yep, I can now. There's
Oh,
a
good.
light.
I know, I gotta go turn it off. It's
Yeah.
annoying.
It's pretty bright.
My husband feels it's necessary to turn every light on in the house all the time and leave them. Between that and the inability to actually recycle and sort things or sort his laundry, these are all major skills that somehow he never learned.
How are you?
I'm okay. I have a persistent, occasional cough from the
Ugh.
time I had COVID for the past 4 months. And I don't know. I don't know what it is. It just keeps coming back and
Huh.
can't get rid of it. So I don't know if it is a long-term COVID thing or if I have some new sinus infection or
Wow.
RSV, who knows, but it's annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have the joy of getting a colonoscopy next month.
Oh God.
Yeah. Not only that, an endoscopy too.
Oh, I had that 5 years ago. It's horrible. They're gonna put you under though, right?
Yeah. Well, for the colonoscopy, yeah. The endoscopy, no.
Why wouldn't they do them at the same time?
Because long story, and I'm not sure I want to talk about it publicly.
This is
Oh,
being recorded.
Yeah, I know.
Right. Oops.
Oops, yeah.
Have you hit the start button?
Yes, I
Please.
guess.
Yeah, I had
Erase
to hit
that.
the start button to start the meeting.
Ugh. That Brown Act, so useful.
Make sure this goes in the minutes.
I know, for sure.
You know, I have to say that Scott's posts on the forum about how he's, retrofitting everything is really cool. I mean, I just love to read them. And in fact, I have a long story to tell at some point, not tonight ever, but about 2 little LED light bulbs that I wanted to put in the pendants over my kitchen counter. And I'm going to end up having to call an electrician to change either the transformer up in the ceiling and or the dimmer switch in order to change from a halogen to an LED. Life is not simple.
Yeah.
It's
All right. We have a quorum. Why don't we get started? Because there's a bunch of stuff. I don't know if you guys know I'm filling in for Scott tonight.
Yes.
So I certainly welcome everybody's input in terms of how the meeting runs and what I should do. But can we take a roll call? I'm Jay, I'm here.
Yes, Rebecca Flynn, I'm here.
Loverine for the minutes.
Yes.
Ronnie here.
Okay, so call the meeting to order. Any oral communications not on the agenda that anybody wants to bring up? Okay. We've been introduced, no one else. Any other announcements for the group? Okay. Does anyone want to move to approve the minutes from the prior meeting?
I can approve both minutes for the prior meetings.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, for both.
I can make a move to approve both minutes for the prior meetings.
Am I allowed to second?
I don't know, but I guess.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Brandy. I second.
We have to roll call, I think. So,
Yay.
Jason, Jay,
Yay. So
Loverine,
all in favor of approving the minutes from the prior 2 meetings?
I think Rebecca's saying we need to do a roll call. which
Yeah.
she's doing, I guess.
Lovey,
What?
roll call for approving the
I
2
yeah, raised
minutes.
my hand, yes.
Yes, Ronnie
Yes.
and who's left? Me,
That's it.
yes.
Okay, old business, updates from Brandy, smart water meters.
So smart water meters, Cal Water has had a delay again due to some staffing issues as well as illnesses with their staff. So we've asked them several times to give us feedback on a great outreach piece that Rebecca did, as well as let us know the timing of the program. So of the relaunch, that is. So we're just waiting to hear back from them. Climate Action Plan 2030. So we have a tentatively scheduled on the February 26th or
Actually
20.
asked
Oh, sorry.
about the, I guess I had a question about the water meter. Should I ask now
Yes.
or wait till you?
Oh yeah, sure.
Do, is the as far as the flume, people that have flume, is that and or opting out, is that plan settled or still being refined, or?
I cannot say for sure because Cal Water has not responded to our outreach to confirm exactly what they're doing with that. So the question about the folks who had the flume removed, as well as the double checking that they're still planning to go forward with that. So I just didn't want any communications to go out until they were 100% solid in what they were doing. So I
see.
can't say for sure. They
I was
haven't
kind of
said it.
asking
They haven't
for-
said differently, but they haven't confirmed the outreach materials that Rebecca drafted that I sent to them.
I see. I didn't realize Rebecca had the materials. I was wondering about it from the standpoint of the newsletter, which I have in January, and wondering if I could mention something like basically just about water monitoring, and like if you have flume, that you have this kind of monitoring, and if you have flume, you'd be able to keep it. And sounds like no.
I would, it depends if they respond by then, yes. I just don't want, the committee or the town or us to not look like we're all putting forward
Yep.
a cohesive
Yeah.
message. So as soon
Okay.
as I know, I will let you know, and I will ping Dawn again, probably early next week, and then I won't again until the week of January 3rd.
Well, if she can at least confirm what I wrote, because I didn't put any dates on there. So if she can at least confirm that, then we can at least let the community know. But
Yeah,
even though there are no dates associated, so as long as the program is still in plan, then we'd be good. But obviously the dates are less important for the message to go out. But
agreed. And I'm just know that I'm doing everything I can, and I even pulled the I'm just checking to make sure you're okay. So understood. Any other questions about the smart water meter pilot project?
Yeah, I just, what's AMI stand for again? The pilot program?
Goodness. You know what? I cannot remember. I think it's the name of I can't remember. I would just be making something up at this point. I'll look it up again and remind myself. I think I know it. I think it's like the name of the smart water meter technology, but I'd need to reconfirm.
it's advanced metering infrastructure.
Thank
I
you.
think.
Okay. Thank you.
Everybody loves what are they called? Anagrams? No. that's not good.
Acronyms.
Acronyms, thank you.
Yes, and I love that the Inflation Reduction Act is also IRA. So okay, so Climate Action Plan 2030. So we have tentatively scheduled to launch that effort at the council meeting on February 22nd. And
22nd?
February 22nd. It's the second council meeting in February. And Hala, our intern, and I have been working with our consultants to get our data in order to be able to talk coherently about our community-wide inventories. There's a tool that you can use to kind of push, change the levers to see what impacts different measures will have. So we're understanding how that works. We can talk about that. And then we'll also be kind of outlining what a climate action plan is and what it can do and the different ways to adopt it. So that will be the start of that effort. And then we have a whole outreach plan that I will be posting on the website for that council meeting or in advance of that council meeting that outlines, the process that we're going to go through of developing it. And sort of the first or the second stop after the council is the sustainability subcommittee to talk about it. And then we'll bring it to the full sustainability committee. So that is moving forward. SB 1383. So
Is
that
there
is,
a
oh, go ahead,
existing,
sorry.
is there an existing subcommittee on that?
Yes, I believe it is Jay and Scott. So Melvin, my boss, is always telling me I get jumped too fast. So any questions on the climate action plan before I move on to the next thing?
So what exactly do you see the sustainability committee doing to contribute towards that?
I think that, the main contribution will be around the measures that are most feasible. I don't know how much we've talked about it with this iteration of the sustainability committee, but most of the opportunities for reducing greenhouse gas emissions in Portola Valley that the town can have influence over are in existing buildings, and mostly natural gas in existing buildings. That's also one of the most tough things to get at, because there aren't very many triggers for doing that. So that is going to be one, I think the major contribution that this sustainability committee can make is just sort of what can be done and what measures and actions that you all think that the community has the appetite for implementing to get at those.
What about EVs?
EVs, yes. I mean, EVs in the transportation sector, yes. EVs. I mean, there again, that's aside from, we've kind of already got the mechanism in place to address that in new construction. So in this last iteration of the green building amendments, we went from, we had something called EV ready, which was actually, once the state building code defined it, we realized that was EV capable. So that was just sort of like conduit and panel space. And now it's truly EV, the requirement is truly EV ready, where you literally can just plug a charging station in. So new construction is pretty well taken care of. Now existing buildings, again, is more difficult, but that is where that one measure within the last, those amendments that were made, if you do work on your electrical panel, you upgrade it or you get a new one, you are required to provide future space for EV charging. So that's sort of getting at that a little bit, removing some of those barriers. But yes, there's definitely opportunity around EV adoption and
So
figuring out.
that passed for existing buildings, right?
Yes.
And
So
when you said EV ready, that means just having a 220 outlet in the garage or wherever. Is that what that means?
yes, it's a little more complicated than that, because you have to have the space in your electrical panel. You have to have the right, I mean, I can look up the code if you want, but it's having the panel space, the right amperage, the conduit run to the place where the EV station would be, it labeled, it all basically ready. So it's a little more complicated than just a 220 outlet, but
Okay. So you don't actually have to have a an actual level 2 machine or whatever they call those things there with its own little connector or anything like that.
No,
Just the availability of once you buy your EV, you're provided with the hookup and you just can plug it into your
you can plug in the
the
charger.
level 2 charger.
Yeah,
Okay.
because like I just plug in straight to a regular outlet. But so this is so you can get the faster charging.
Okay. I got you.
And get the actual like charge point or whatever, whatever charging mechanism you want to make the charging happen faster.
Okay. Great.
So yeah, the main contribution as I see it at this point is in the measures, what you think will have the most impact. And then like some of them, there's some that have a really big impact and there's some that have a lesser impact, but you may think that for some other reason that those should go forward, and that would be what we bring back to council. So there's a lot happening with it now. The county has a new consultant that's kind of looking at it in a different way that I think is actually more effective and will result in kind of more accurate measurements of the action. So before it was kind of like the measures were so vague, but the calculations that were associated with them were so concrete that it was almost, you could like change 1 or 2 words in the measure and it would not necessarily result in the reductions in emissions. So anyhow,
And
I
what's
said that it was Climate Action Plan 2030. I mean, with regard to that, is there like some specific goal for 2030 or something like that?
yes. So within these tools that we have, there are specific reduction measures associated with AB 32, with the ability like reaching a certain percentage below the baseline emissions at certain years, 2030, 2040, 2050. And so we can see what we have a forecasting tool, and so we can see what business as usual would result in, or what measures we take, how that would impact them.
and what,
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just going to ask what the timing is of what we would have to do then when we evaluate these iterations. When would we have to get back to you and to the town council about our recommendations?
We don't have very concrete timelines right now because we're still waiting for some tools to be developed by the consulting firm. And so I'm not willing to, if once I say we can have it done at a certain time, then the consultant will not get the tools when they send them, we'll get them. And I don't, once we have those tools, once we launch it, we'll have sort of some more concrete dates. But it's not like, the housing element or the safety element where we're under the gun with having it done at a certain time. So,
Okay.
and I might I might ask the committee, like what, or the subcommittee, like what is a realistic timeline for this? So that is Climate Action Plan 2030. And then moving on to SB 1383, which is this climate pollutant reduction strategy targeting organic waste and surplus food. And so this, as I've mentioned before, is an extremely comprehensive bill that has impacts all over the place. Today, for example, I was on a training that Woodside was giving our team about how to do our paper procurement record keeping in the software that we purchased. So the major thing that is going on with that right now, there's kind of 2 things, maybe 3 things. So the town's ordinance that we were required to adopt by the state has some elements to it that are going to start becoming, they're going to be enforced. The enforcement date is July 1st, 2023. And one of those is, or the one that will impact residents most, some residents, is mandatory subscription to garbage service. And so I've been working with Green Waste to understand how many accounts are not, how many residences should have garbage service or would need to have garbage service that don't. And so, and then figuring out how to do outreach around that. And it's a very unique thing. Most municipalities, most cities have had mandatory subscription to garbage service for years and years because it helps with illegal dumping, right? If you're required to have it, you won't be dumping your garbage off in the creek or whatever. So as far as I can tell, I just got the list back from Green Waste today, and the way that the Senate bill is written, it's like if you're producing waste, if you're a organic waste producer, you have to subscribe to garbage service. And so now I have to meet with the town attorney to understand what that means. Like, is someone who just has a parcel on a forest that clears it on an organic waste producer? So anyway, that I'm hoping to have all that figured out by January so that we can start doing outreach to those 100 or so accounts that will be impacted.
So if someone just has an empty house here, nobody's occupying it, they would still be forced to subscribe to weekly garbage service that they never use.
I don't know. And I think, for commercial accounts, we have what's called a de minimis waiver. So if they're not producing waste, they can ask for a waiver. We did not put that in for residential accounts. So I might need to make an amendment. So I'm not sure, and it gets really wiggly because like people, I know from managing the garbage franchise agreement for like 10 years that people really can do squirrely stuff. So it's
I know when I lived in San Jose, they had that 25 years ago where you had to pay for garbage whether you occupied your house or not. But
yep. And Melvin, the assistant town manager, said that East Palo Alto actually has it tied to your property taxes. But anyway, so that is the biggest thing. The other thing is that for commercial accounts, all of our commercial accounts already subscribe to service, so there's no issue getting them to. The only thing that will impact them is that we have a provision within the ordinance where if they produce more than 4 cubic yards of waste per week, which is a trigger for mandatory recycling, then they have to get mandatory yard trimmings bins. Because if you have your yard trimmings going into a separate bin, as we know, it's composted separately, and it can produce a higher use product. And again, if they I'm not sure how much organic waste or yard trimmings a place like Alpine Hills Tennis Club produces, so they could apply for that de minimis waiver. Now I know the Priory and the Sequoias, huge amounts of yard trimmings. So so that's the thing that will impact the commercial accounts. And then the other thing is we are looking, separate from the work that this committee is doing, we have a very high procurement target the town does for compost and mulch, very SB 1383 certified compost and mulch, which right now just Green Waste and Linkso provide. We're working with Rembrandt Ranch to get them certified as well, because that's the most local product. But I'm working with Hala, the intern, to try and get fill out this spreadsheet that they have where you can get a reduced procurement target, because right now it's like 365 tons per year, which is, the town, as far as I understand it, probably uses 5 cubic yards a year. So it's a difficult target. So that is SB 1383. Any questions on that? I don't know how much, if the committee, if you don't want to know about this, let me know, but it's a big part of what I'm doing. Let me know if you're we're not interested in this anymore, speed it up. So the next thing is green building amendments and electrification of existing buildings. So that I talked a lot about extensively at our last meeting. That goes into effect on January 1st, 2023. And so I've been working with the planning department to update all of the handouts that are on the website, working with the building official to develop an FAQ as well as specific handouts on the specific measures. And then we will be editing the website to include all of that. And there was a pretty long message that was summarized all of those provisions that went out in the newsletter today, the town newsletter. Any questions about any of that? Nope. That is my update.
Okay. Thank you, Brandy, very much. That's a lot of stuff. The next thing is going over the PSAs. Scott has done one a week for the last few weeks. Is Scott technically November or December?
November/December.
Overachiever. Okay. And Ronnie, are you January?
Yeah,
Yes.
the last meeting we had talked about potentially that there was a gap for December. Talked about me potentially moving up, but then I spoke with Scott, and since he was like sending out the weekly things, pushing out through December, decided it made sense to keep it January, basically.
Okay, so then I think we're pretty set for that. Do you have a topic?
Yeah, I think so. I had suggested run some things by Scott, and one that he basically like a few tech items I was thinking about talking about. And one that he picked up on was a home intel audit. I guess it's not exactly tech, but anyways, it's basically a service that takes like your PG&E data, runs it through some tools, and like spits back an analysis of your energy usage. Pretty detailed and like trying to identify problem areas and ways to save and stuff like that. And so yes, I'm planning to include that, and maybe I was thinking of making it broader on like different tools for observing and monitoring your energy and or water usage, mostly energy, but I had been thinking about including Flume or things like that, but so may or may not, depending on how that ends up.
If you want to chat at all, I don't know if you have Tesla or anything, but we have Tesla with, do you have it?
What about Tesla?
Tesla Powerwalls or Tesla Solar?
I don't have that, no.
Because that app is terrific for monitoring your energy usage. And then the smart wall, the smart panel that we have as well is another nice piece of tech for monitoring things and really looking at usage over time and patterns and where exactly the drain is coming from.
Okay, I probably will follow up. Is that specifically for people with Tesla Powerwalls?
No, this is just so the two different things. One is just the Tesla app. If you have Tesla Solar or Tesla Powerwalls, which many people have both, then the app will show you how much you use every day, how much you use different parts of the day, how much you use by season. It's very easy to look at your overall power usage, and then you can stratify that by time of day and season, et cetera, versus the panel that I have, which is a totally different thing, that you can see really that same data, plus you can just go by the circuit. And so it can tell you, okay, this much is, I know this much is going to my heater, this much is going to my refrigerator, et cetera.
The panel is which panel is that? Or
SPAN, SPAN.
SPAN. Okay, yeah. I know about that. I haven't used that. Yeah, maybe I'll talk to you about it.
Okay.
Yeah, since I don't have personal experience. The first one though, that is only for people that have either Tesla Solar or Tesla Powerwall, right?
Yeah.
What you said.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And the home intel audit that's now offered through PG&E, the sustainability committee worked really hard with home energy people, whatever the name of the company is, that developed that. And I was actually one of the first trial people back when it was, even before it went to PG&E back, I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I don't remember anymore, but
Okay,
It was very effective for me. I mean, we reduced our energy use by 70%. This was before we got an EV, but we're still, you know, a good 50% below our original highs. So it was quite
That's-
effective.
That's a huge number. Can I ask what kinds of things did you do to get that dramatic? a change?
Well, I flipped out most of my light bulbs to LEDs. I went kind of like what Scott did, but I took it slower. I did half of every fixture. That way I kind of used up all the bulbs that I had. I started putting my computer on rest, you know, so that it would go to sleep after after a certain number of times, because before I was just leaving it on all the time, all day long. We were much more careful about turning lights off. I put my water recirculating pump, instead of having it run 24 hours a day, you know, 365 days a year, I put it on a timer. So it was only running at 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening. And I'm actually thinking of drafting a message about that, because I just put it onto Alexa now. So I have it on a timer with Alexa. So now I can just go into the bathroom and tell Alexa to turn on the pump. And then 5 minutes later, I tell it to turn it back off, and I have hot water at my tap. So instead of having to wait 5 minutes for hot water, so now I no longer waste tons of water when I want to take a shower or wash my face. And I don't have to run it an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening anymore, because I just turn it on for those 5 minutes when I actually need it. So it's been a dramatic, actually, increase in quality of life in my house. So
maybe you said you're thinking about posting. I mean, maybe one thing you could do is wait till I do my posting and then like follow up with that anecdote or something. Or I mean, you could send me
yeah,
something
I
if you
would-
wanted me to try to include
No,
it.
I
but-
don't think we should incorporate it. I think it should be sort of a separate little thing.
Right.
So I
Okay.
was kind of thinking about, in terms of Scott sort of saying his experiences of the things that he was doing. I thought this would kind of follow through with the same sort of idea. You know, I'm on the sustainability committee. I wanted to kind of keep refining some of the things I do at my home. And this was one.
Yep.
And I know a lot of people in town, especially those that have newer homes, all have hot water recirculating pumps
Mhm.
that are usually set to run 24/7. So it's wasting enormous amount of both electricity and gas if they're on a gas water heater, because they're constantly, their water heaters having to re-warm up the water in the tank just to allow this constant circulation for water that they never use. So it has a huge impact on electrical bills. So those are all a bunch of the things I did. They also, the program spends a lot of time on vampire energy. So we had identified all of the vampire energy throughout the house, and we put them on smart strips.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that as well. Yeah.
And or just unplugged things that didn't need to run all day long, whatever. So it somehow all these things had a huge impact.
The chair recognizes Lovey with her hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to say that Scott's posts on the forum have been terrific. His PSAs, they have this personal touch, and you know, showing. I mean, I think that's the way to go. I think it's generated a lot of talk and postings, and it makes you feel it sort of holds your hand. You know, in fact, I've been talking to him privately about LED light bulbs, and he helped me figure out things. That's the kind of PSA that I think is very, very helpful, is when you sort of are doing something yourself and you're drawing people in with you on, here's what I did. Just like you said, Rebecca, putting your timer, your water heater thing on Alexa. Wow, that's a great idea. I mean, those kind of things get people's attention.
Yeah, that marketing book that you were reading and that we had to read back a bunch of years ago really went into that idea of the peer pressure kind of idea.
Peer pressure. Yep, exactly.
I have a story.
Peer-to-peer influencing.
I have
Influencing.
a story in my journey that I don't want to tell anybody, which is that and I'll just keep this, you know, to us and the public who can read the minutes, which is that we put in a heat pump a few months ago, And then we had the blower test and we're losing a dramatic amount of electricity, and the heat pump, which, as you guys may know, heats the home more slowly and at a more gradual rate, is essentially on all the time now.
Uh-oh.
Keep our home hot enough because we're losing so much air, and we have our houses. And in the summer, when those really hot days, it was not sufficient to cool our home. And so we're
But
going to
hey,
have.
Jason, wouldn't
Huh.
that be good for people to know? I mean, that's the kind of thing.
No,
that-
because now I have to spend probably $100,000 that I absolutely don't have to redo basically everything under the floor. of
All
our
your
house.
duct work, all your duct work.
But then when you redo the
Reseal the
ductwork, you got to
ductwork.
do some other things too. It's like an enormous domino series
Yeah.
of things that have to be done because this heat pump / air conditioner is really not sufficient anymore.
So I'm not having trouble understanding why your duct work has so many holes in it.
Our house
Why
is
Or
not
your
well.
house is, oh, it's
designed.
not well
Not just the
sealed.
duct work, I think you're saying, right?
I
We're
see.
we're
So
on
your
a hill.
windows and your,
I think our
Your-
windows are good, but the whole ductwork has to be redone. But then if you redo that, then all of the insulation has to be redone. If you redo all the insulation, then because of the way our house is built, then you have to move all the electric and all the plumbing at the same time.
And you may even have some asbestos stuff too, if you have old
Probably.
duct work.
So it's because of the heat pump coming in, we've realized this needs to be done, and that means a bunch of other things need to be done, and I don't want to tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
so
No,
did
like
you
it-
did you have a consultant come in and recommend what you need to do to fix this? Why you're so unsealed your house?
We had they came in and do the blower test as part of the required thing. And they gave us, which is funny because if you fail by a little bit, then you fail. And if you fail by a lot, then you pass because they say you're hopeless. And we don't expect you to realistically do this. So just forget it. So we passed. But we knew before that these certain things were a problem. Our house is on a hill, so the whole bottom of it is exposed, and it's just this horrendous. We don't need to talk about my house, but it's a
Well, I
series.
think it's a common problem. A lot of people in Portola Valley have houses on a hill. I know I do.
I've never
How
seen a house
old-
with
how
the
old is the
insulation
house?
just falling out of it. 1973.
Okay, that's a problem too. See, I've got a 1950s house. And, all these green building ordinances and electrification and the deadline of January 1st and la-di-da, it's not going to be a pretty situation. It's not going to be simple. It's not.
Yeah, I just went to a couple of PG&E seminars. And boy, one was about how to install windows properly. And the guy spent the first hour just showing pictures of what happens when a tiny little thing is not done properly, whether it's the flashing around the window. There's an actual sequence to exactly how the flashing works and how the building wrap comes over the top, exact sequence. If you screw it up and lap things backwards, then you just screw things up. If your gutter doesn't have these little flaps at the very edge, at the end, and water comes down, it can just destroy your building. I mean, these things that are $15, if they were done properly, can result in hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage because the water gets in everywhere. And so the same thing with insulation. If you air seal very tight your house, an old house, and you do that, it totally changes the dynamics of how the air moves through your home, and it can cause the humidity, the dew point to change in location. So if you have a very drafty house, the dew point is out. And then as you seal everything up, the dew point kind of moves into the wall. So you have to be very careful that you don't end up having a dew point destroying the interior walls of your house, because the air and the moisture can't get in or out, so it's not trivial at all.
No. Now, this is going to be a big problem when they, this green building ordinance and sort of, there's got to be exceptions written into this. I mean, it's.
Well, Well, I don't think any of the ordinances currently force existing homes to do much of anything short of switching out an air conditioner with a heat pump, which won't make a major
Yeah, well,
shift. but-
Jason though just put a heat pump in and now $100,000 retrofit on something. Whoa. I mean, we're going to hear stories like this quite a bit more, I think. New construction, that's great. You put the windows in a new house, but when you I just did this 10 years ago, about $100,000 worth of Fleetwood double paned da-da-da-das, and I can't open my front door now because it wee-wad, and so I just keep it locked and I can't use my front door. It's pretty, but I can't use it.
But that sounds like a settlement problem.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is when you put windows in an old house, these heavy new windows, sometimes the framing on these old houses can't take it,
I see, okay.
you know?
But Jay, did you you decided to put in a heat pump to actually replace both your heat and did you have air conditioning before?
We did, and it just broke one day. It just wouldn't turn on, so we decided instead of replacing that, we're just gonna get the heat pump. So,
But you did have them run numbers, right, for what you would need for your home,
I got
like a
some-
Measure J kind of thing.
I just went by square footage. We have a ranch, and so I got basically something that was a third bigger than we should need. So, and that was if we ever wanted to, do the standard Portola Valley, put an addition on the house, et cetera. But it by all accounts should be sufficient.
Yeah, but I guess if you'd had them do an actual J, whatever, those energy things, they might have, and then with the blower test, they might have detected that the fact that your house is so drafty.
Yeah.
But
Well, they won't do a blower test if there's any asbestos tape around. I know that.
I don't think there is. I think we should move on just for sake of time, but I think, it's all stuff that had to be done anyway, and this just happens to be the order of events. So,
Just,
well, I think it's to be aware. It's good to be aware of all the potential issues.
what were you gonna say, Ronnie?
yeah, before we leave the agenda item or get back to the agenda, just one more side comment about the home intel, and the company is Home Energy Analytics, and you mentioned, Rebecca, that you had done work with them, and so when I mentioned the home intel audit to Scott, he went and did it, and then he said that he was on the sustainability committee and that we were thinking about posting on it, and we got in touch with someone named James Tulea, I think is his name, and he mentioned that he had worked, I think, with Brandy before,
Mhm.
and he says like it's been about 4 years since when he worked with Brandy and did some earlier outreach, and it's probably time that they do some more info sharing with the community. And so I don't know if that'll just be this newsletter posting, or I also mentioned to him that he could probably, if he had something, come to one of our meetings and update us and take it from there or something like that.
That would be great if they update on how the community's doing and who's how many people have participated or whatever.
Oh,
Right. And he said that they've also added a lot of electrification analysis to help people, plan to electrify their homes.
Yeah, I not routinely, but occasionally, when I check my account, I send them a little note saying with feedback, because at one point they were recommending a gas appliance, and I said, please don't recommend this anymore. We're going all electric. So I think they were going to fix that. But
Brandy, you have something to add?
Yes, I wanted to say that if it's something that the town can do outside of the sustainability committee, but if you all wanted to ask the council to send out a letter or outreach, something more organized about the home intel program, I would be happy to kind of shepherd that effort. I think I mentioned it once before, but this, I've attended all of those behavior and energy and climate change conferences all these years, and the persistence in efficiency that they talk about with the programs there is like 3 to 5% is good. And the last time we looked at the numbers, that the home intel program, the original iteration of it had like 40% persistence. So it has a huge potential impact. So anyway, just if that's something you all want to shepherd, have it go, from the town, from the sustainability committee with some.
Is that, I guess, separately, for the next newsletter post, I think things were potentially arranged to send it out instead of like us emailing on PV Forum or also have it sent out through the town e-notices like program. But then I didn't quite know if, depending on what exactly I put in the newsletter, if it'll be appropriate, because like for Scott's, he decided not to do that since he was like talking about, well, one, it was more personal, and two, he was talking about like specific products, and the town didn't want to be seen as like endorsing products. But I guess from what you're saying, at least like the home intel itself like should be something that the town is fine.
Well, there's no
putting out, right?
cost, so.
There's no cost, and it's a PG, it's a I don't know how to say it. It's not like
Yeah.
the same as recommending a product, because it's a
Right.
program endorsed by the utility.
I mean, would you suggest that like instead of it making it part of my newsletter, we do something different to advertise it?
No, I think you can definitely make it part of the newsletter. I'm just saying, if the committee thinks that we should do more, there's like opportunity for sending out postcards or, whatever. If you
Okay.
as a committee wanted to do more than it had being part of the town newsletter, there's
I
that
think we should
opportunity.
have them come and present their results. I mean, update us on what's going on with it, and then we can make a decision whether we should do a big push. And it can be. I don't know if we have the budget. Do we have a budget for doing that in for this year's budget? I don't know, but
I'll pull it up while we're on the meeting, but there's also, there are funds within the town's regular outreach budget too, but I'll pull up the sustainability committee budget right now.
but yeah. So how would we go about organizing to have them come present?
Well, right now, Scott and I are in email contact with James Tulea, and so that it may come out of that. James also said that he would send me like either a blurb or some other material to use for the newsletter, and so far he's kind of flaked on that. He said he would do it like today or tomorrow, like a week ago, and then I just pinged him again a couple of days ago, and he again said he was going to do it. Would have been yesterday, and he hasn't done it. So
So the person we dealt with was Steve Schmidt. So I don't
Okay.
know what his connection is, if he's the CEO. I mean, he was the CEO. I don't know if now he's hired someone or if he's still
I
part of
see.
it. I don't know, but
Do you-
that was the name of the person.
Brandy, did
They
James
hired,
mention that he knew you? Is he like a good person for us to be talking to, do you think? Or
he's who you need to talk to. They hired
Okay.
him to do outreach for the program, so he's their conduit now for outreach.
Okay. He said he was busy, so I don't know. Hopefully he'll just follow up sometime soon.
Well, yeah, then if you could ask him about their availability to come for one of our next,
Right.
either the next meeting or the February meeting, I guess, whatever.
All right, next thing, do we need to say anything else about smart water meter?
Where are we?
What's it?
Where did you go? Or where are you now in the agenda?
Smart water meter, just the next thing after the PSAs.
Oh, okay.
Little.
Yeah, it seems
Roman-
like a number of these agenda items are kind of what Brandy was
Repetitive.
talking about, but I guess this is
Yeah.
under the heading of review and update committee priorities for 2023.
Yeah. But I feel like Brandy's given us all that we have for that. Anyone have anything else to add? Okay, climate action plan.
What is the aspect of, well, I guess I'm a little bit unclear. What are we supposed to doing as far as update committee priorities for 2023? It,
Is this for 23 to 24? Fiscal year 23, 24, or is this for how things have been going so far at the half point for this fiscal year?
I think this is just update these things and see if, do we need to change a direction? Do we need to, is there something additional we need to do? And in that regard, I think that most of this has been addressed by Brandy, unless I'm missing something.
I think that if you look at the next agenda item, I'm just guessing, but I think that this is like to decide if you want these to remain your priorities for 23, 24, and then if there are other ones, like these would be the inputs for that committee workshop in January.
So we're just sort of recapping how far we've gotten with these ones, so that then we can decide whether we're going to continue them in the next fiscal year, I guess.
Yes, or if you want to let the town's council know if there's something else that you want to embark on as they start that, you know how they have the committee workshop and then it goes into the budget and then that becomes part of the budget for the next fiscal year. So if there was something like that, something huge you wanted to suggest that they undertake, that you would want to start talking about it in that workshop in January, so they could decide if they wanted it to become part of the budget.
Okay.
So I guess I'm a little confused. What is agenda item 6C versus 6D?
I think 6C is review what's been done for this year. And 6D is we plan for what will be done for 2023, 24. So from July 23 through June 24. So right now we're discussing we're reviewing what's been done, how far along we are with our 2023 priorities. I don't know why it says for 2023. It should say for 2022 to 2023, I think. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, we can get to this, but committee workshop, is that, because that doesn't say meeting, but committee workshop, is that like, that's not the thing between us and Woodside?
Mhm.
But I didn't.
No, I think that's for the town council.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Dialogue with the town council on what our priorities are as
Priorities
a
are.
committee.
What
Okay.
money, what budget we're gonna need for the next year. It's kind of, I almost feel like we're barely finished putting together our priorities for this fiscal year. And now we're already talking about the next fiscal year without really having done too many of the ones for this fiscal year, but.
So why don't we just
So-
finish going over these things one by one that Brandy did address, but I think most of them are going to end up being, yes, it's being worked on. Let's keep working on it.
Mhm.
And that's kind of it, like the water meter issue Brandy talked about. It's kind of in process. There's still some things that need to be done. I think people agree it's still a worthwhile thing to do. Does anyone have any additional comments on that other than let's keep going?
Yep, that sounds
Okay.
good.
The next item is the climate action plan. We talked about that. That's Scott and I are on that subcommittee for that, but we're still kind of waiting to act on it. And we still
Mhm.
think that's a good idea. Anyone have anything else on that?
Nope,
Okay,
we're good.
electrification ordinances. I think that's the same thing. We talked about that and we'll, play any role that we can. The demonstration units, Scott emailed me a while ago. The stovetop is there, but it sounds like there's still a couple of hiccups that are being worked out. And the backup unit is there. I don't have anything else on that other than that
Yeah.
the stovetop is in process.
Scott told me that the stovetop is already at the library and they're just waiting to have the library input it into their IT system so that people can check it out. So for some reason that seems to take forever. So he's waiting on that.
And did we figure out somebody to write a blurb and be a point person for that? If, as far as the instructions that go with it from our end?
I
Like,
don't know if we did assign somebody to that.
so I did that for the battery, wrote down kind of just the gist of it, the basics, what it's good for, how it can be educational. And then I put my information on there for anybody to contact me. Does anybody, do we think that needs to be done for the stove?
Mhm.
Okay.
Did,
Any-
did Anita volunteer for that?
Yeah, I thought she did.
Okay. Okay. So we should follow up on that.
And I emailed around to everybody that thing that the PG&E has got the same sort of plan, so maybe we can just steal all their their instructions and modify them, of course, to be more PV specific, but that might be an easy way to get it created.
And then the next item is the Welo on the town website.
What is the M in front of Welo for?
Is that a typo?
No.
Model,
it's
model water
yeah.
efficient landscape ordinance.
Oh, model. Okay. I never heard it called that. Okay.
Yeah. And that got, by the way, in the October town council meeting, at the same time as all those greenhouse gas stuff was being done. There was a charter to give the sustainability committee the charter to modify the MWELO and to update it. So that's definitely now been put on our plate. So
Great. Good.
we
So-
should think about that.
So we wait for direction for that. What would be the next step, Rebecca or Lovey?
Well, I
Well,
think we need to get to, yeah, go ahead, Lovey.
well, I was just going to say, Darren, is it, Brandy, sent me a huge file of like 10 plans to look over, the irrigation and the plantings. And I haven't dug into those yet. It's on my plate to do, but we need to get on this. These are very complicated procedure, these new builds, big builds where they're putting in huge irrigation systems and plantings. I'd like to get together with Al Sills again and sort of flesh out a plan, a route, a list of priorities, sort of in order of importance to attack on this, so that when the planning department finally does have room in on their plate for, helping us with this, because we're going to need those guys input and man hours on this kind of thing, because these things are really complicated. So in the next couple of months, maybe in March, I could make a report on a route or suggestions, or make a presentation to you about alternatives or ideas or things, because Al Sills to me is the key on this. He is so knowledgeable about this, and he sort of made the Welo, and he's on the ASCC committee. He's made that his baby, and how people are gaming the system. So that's where that is right at the moment. I've not done anything with it at the moment, but I think we need to, in the next couple of months, sit down and prioritize how we'd like to attack any changes or make suggestions to this, to the next iteration of this. And we don't have to do it. I mean, it's not like a mandate from the state or anything. like the housing element is, or even the safety. But it, people are abusing it, the current system, sort of ignoring it, if you will. And I think we need to close those loopholes. Now, with 4 inches of rain in this last week, people's idea of drought, is quickly erased. But I don't think it's going to go away. I would love it if it would, and it's, I'd be happy to give it up. But anyway, that's where that stands from my perspective.
That sounds good. I talked to Al last night about it, actually.
Oh, good.
And I was asking him about whether he's still seeing as many problems as the past. And he actually said recently the few projects that have come through the ASCC have not had these problems because the people doing the remodels are more in tune with Portola Valley. We don't have people coming that should really be living in Atherton or Los Altos Hills. So instead that they're more in tune with it. So it's not an issue. So it hasn't been an issue for them, but that doesn't mean that we don't need to close the loopholes for people that do come in, because there'll be a lot more people coming in.
It's my feeling too that the real estate market at the moment is not hot, if you will. So, I think we're not seeing these mega projects, but although I will say this, out here in Westridge, when they occur, there's one right next door. I feel sorry for Mary Ann. She lives across from one that's been 3 years, and now there's the next door one is going to start, on that little street. I just walked up there today, and there must have been 20 white pickup trucks on the street where the sign says no on-street parking. There were at least, 20 white pickup trucks. And, this gets me. These things, what's the volume of a pickup truck? These Ram 4x4s? And one person driving it.
Well, there's the new Ford Lightning that is very excited, a new EV that's like selling like hotcakes. They've had to expand their plant. So at least there's a big interest in that. So
But can't these guys carpool?
I want to call on Brandy, who's had her hand up for a few minutes, but I also want to say I got the call for my Rivian yesterday after 4 years. So it's coming in 2 weeks.
you could have bought the one that the Portola Valley Garage kid bought.
What was this?
The kid from the Portola Valley Garage, he put himself on the list as well, but then I guess he just got notified as well last month that his was coming in, and I guess he wanted to sell it because I guess the 130,000 or whatever was too steep or something for him.
Yeah. Well, I got the
Well, that's the marked up price.
Yeah, I'm getting the SUV and it's at the old price. So
That sounds pretty cool.
it pays to drive a Toyota for the last 4 years. Brandy, what did you want to say?
Electric bicycle.
I just wanted to say that, Lovey, when you are ready to put together that plan, I took really good notes about kind of the structure that Laura, the planning director, had outlined and the path that she thought we should follow and how they could help and at what points in the timing. So let me know when you want to, chat so that we have that. But the planning director outlined a very solid path to
Yeah, she had some great ideas, and she said, specifically there were some places that a carrot and stick approach could work. So yeah, definitely. But I need to do my homework before we have that. So I'll get in touch with you, Brandy.
I'd love to see that list too, actually.
Well, it was in the report that I made.
Oh, okay, I
that
have to go
a
back
couple
to it
months
then.
ago.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll have to go reread that then.
Yeah, go reread that, because Laura had some she had some really good points to make, and she's on board with it. It's just that her plate's too full right now.
So you're thinking February, March timeframe, or push it back a little further, or what
Let's
do
say
you
March,
kind-
April.
Okay.
I
I'm
mean, I
not
don't-
gonna put,
I
I'm
don't
not
know
gonna
how
put
this
anything in
housing
the-
element thing is going to work out. How much. I don't. Brandy might know better than I do. Where their commitment or their time is on that.
I mean, she had originally said this spring. I think the housing element is, she said they could maybe start committing resources in the spring, but that she could meet for an hour or two, you know,
Before then.
before then. And I think that the housing element should be done in February, perhaps, but and they also working on the safety element. So, you know, I doubt it would be before this spring that they would have any significant time to put towards it. So if you all want to work towards that, that goal, and what she had said was, talk in spring of 2023 to have a united idea for the council priorities, which are usually decided in late May, or they start talking about it in late May.
Okay.
So I think we should probably move on to the next one unless anybody has anything else pressing to say on the WELO issue.
Nope.
Okay, so the next letter D is apropos to what Brandy just said, the 2023 issues. So I'm not positive how to move on from here, other than are there things that we've talked about before? I know people brought up Earth Day and then it went away. People brought up the idea of doing some joint things with Woodside after the meeting we had with them last month. Anything else we want to discuss that we just want to accomplish in the next fiscal year?
Well, I think we should take a look at our current budget priority thing. It's in the packet on page, well, there's no pages, of course. In the packet after the November 29th meeting minutes, there's that spreadsheet that shows the different items. So I can read them off, or I could share my screen, but I don't have this is just a PDF, so I can't make changes to it, but maybe someone else who has, I don't know, I guess Scott has it. So I don't know.
Is it the page with the
yellow highlighted
highlight?
Excel
Okay.
sheet. Yeah, so maybe someone else could share
I see
their
it as page
screen
8.
so I can take notes.
Oh,
You got it, Ronnie?
yeah.
Great.
All right. So community education.
That's
You know, I certainly think we should continue doing that. I think it's working out really well.
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to go to the trouble of putting impacts and numbers and all that, or if we just want to first go through it just sort of more generally.
I would go through it more generally, and I think this is a thing that would be good to have Scott here for too.
Okay. All right, the next one was smart water meter usage and education outreach. I think we should do that once Cal Water gives us the go ahead.
Yeah.
If they ever do.
Yeah, for in our lifetime. Okay, so I'll just put down there, continue.
And then climate action plan, I feel like is the same thing. And the electrification ordinance are the same thing.
Okay,
And then
the electrification ordinance. How much is ongoing? I mean, some of that was done, I guess, right? Existing building stock. I didn't.
yeah.
so
Okay.
is that going to be, that's one of exploring the issues, figuring out a way forward, and then doing education or doing promotion, I guess, in a sense, getting the community on board and then educating people about it, or maybe do it the other way around, educating and then getting the community on board.
And then demos, I don't think there's much more to do with demos for the ones we have existing, other than make sure we get a write-up for the stove. And then the other thing is that we should, maybe we should try to figure something else out, because it sounds like it's been a success with the with the battery and the solar panel. Is there anything else that we'd like to add in terms of budget and continue this trend?
Well, the idea of that smart meter kind of thing. I know, Ronnie, you have the Emporia View, that little
Mhm.
gadget that you added to your machine. Is that something that an electrician kind of, or someone that's real savvy with electrical things can do that
That
needs to
thing-
do? Or is it
No.
kind of resident add that to their?
All that you do is plug it into an outlet. You don't need to touch any electrical equipment. You plug it into an outlet and then it communicates with your smart meter. And the only thing you do need to do is, so I don't know how well it'd work as a rental, because you need to like call PG&E to have them allow it
Oh.
to read your data, basically.
Oh.
But aside from that, there's, I mean, even like plugs, smart plugs that can do energy monitoring. I'm probably going to talk about those. Stuff like that, maybe. Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah,
those are very
once
cheap,
you
but
once you explore that and write something up, then we can figure out if we want to create, add more of those for rental.
yeah.
Could we do, I think the big barrier here is cost and liability, but could we do an e-bike?
You
They have
know,
bikes. There's no, I mean, so they have a bike.
interestingly enough, I was just reading about something called Switch. Have you heard about them? They're a Dutch company, or whatever. They create a small gadget that with some extra pieces that hooks up to any type of bike.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's super expensive. They don't have numbers because they only do releases occasionally. I'm on their wait list, but I think it was under 1,000, like $700 or something. I don't know. So that might be some potential option. I don't know enough about it to see how complex it is to adding it to a bicycle, if it's something that can easily be put
Yeah.
on and then taken back off. But, that might be an option, because then people have their own bike and then they try it out. But
Yeah. Yeah, well, if you want to let us know if we can find out how difficult it would be to temporarily put it on somebody's bike and then take it off, that might be a great thing, because then the liability issues probably a lot less because it's your own bike.
I mean, I think the liability issue has been solved. The library does rent bikes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
It
I mean,
does?
maybe there's, yeah, they have bikes.
EV bikes? EV
Not
bikes?
not EV.
Oh,
yeah,
regular bicycles.
regular bikes.
Wow.
The other thing is
They
tools.
just recently started that.
The other thing is tools. I mean, what about renting out a blower, an electric blower kind of thing, so people can actually try one out?
Yeah. That's a great idea. Except that everyone has to have an electric now anyway, right? There's the law is that you can't use a gas blower anymore. So I guess there's less benefit for us to try to sell somebody on it, because technically they don't have a choice. Right?
Yep.
Even though there are plenty of gas blowers in Portola Valley.
I don't know. Do you see this tab? Am I still
Wow.
sharing?
I had no idea.
Huh. Well, we can continue to think of other items.
Yeah. Yeah. But in terms of budget, I think that's probably a big one. Do we want to leave the remainder of this for? Does anyone have anything in particular to add on the remainder of these, or do we want to kind of talk about these maybe next time with Scott? Any input here?
Maybe a question for Brandy, if you know, I mean, I guess, so what did the agenda item mention? Basically, what has to happen in terms of we need to present something or discuss something with the town council, and like, is that happening in January, or what's our timeline on this?
I guess that the workshop is in January. I need to look and see what the actual date is to see if it's before or after your meeting. But it's really just like if there's something, it's just like an opportunity if there's something significant that comes that you like more major than you haven't brought before that you want to apprise them of in advance of you like presenting it with your budget. So for example, I mean, if you wanted, if it would be like a larger expenditure, or like if you said, I'm having trouble thinking of something, it's just sort of that opportunity. But there's still, I'll see if I can find the date. I did want to show you your budget quickly. I do have it, I have your budget pulled up. So I did have it pulled up. Did I space out and take it down? So that you could see, nope, I don't know. I need a second. I guess I pulled it back down again. Oh no, there it is. So you can see what you have there. Because these things work together, your priorities work with how much you've budgeted. And so here you can see when we were talking about like the home intel program, if you wanted to send out some kind of outreach materials, you have $1,000 that I doubt you've used any of in this budget cycle. This garden tour, I also do not think is coming to fruition this year. So that's another $1,500 that you have to use. And then, I mean, I think really the only thing that you've used here is this, some towards the loaners, the demos. So anyhow, I just wanted to show you
We
what's
have to
here.
spend $8,000 before the end of the year, you're saying?
Well, I mean, 6 months. It's a fiscal year, so you still have time. I mean, but you have, if you did decide you wanted to do a film series, that a lot of this money goes towards the actual renting of the films. Anyhow, so there's things there. I mean, if there was something with the gadget, what was the gadget that or the thing that you plug in? I didn't catch the name of it that plugs in and you.
Emporia,
Emporia,
View,
okay.
VUE.
It's like $40 for one of those.
Because something you could do, you can give stuff away and have people sign a waiver for it. I mean, we tried something years ago with something that had to be installed directly on your electric panel, and it was just too difficult to get people to get the electrician to install it. But with something like that, if you all decided you wanted to, have like a lottery and give 100 of those away and do your own like pilot project, I mean, at $40 a piece, if you all decided that was super beneficial, you could totally do that, so that would be the kind of thing. I mean, and it's more like, oh, sorry.
I think that's a great idea, because I bet you if you give away 20 of them, that's more than would be in Portola Valley based on reading a great piece that Ronnie would write about it. You know what I mean? You can write the greatest thing and a very small number of people are gonna do what anybody says. I think a giveaway is a great idea. And if you got the money and Ronnie, if you think you endorse it, you think it's a useful tool, that's a neat idea.
And get the people who you give it to write, a little blurb about how they used it. I mean, again, the peer thing.
Something like that could be at
experience.
one of these fairs. I don't know if we do the what was the last fair called? If we do that one again, or
The
Earth
town
Day or
picnic.
whatever. The town picnic, yeah.
You have the one, I don't forget what the name of it is, but the one on Earth Day. I mean, you could do it. That's probably far enough away that you could do something there, have folks,
The wildfire.
yeah, the wildfire one. I mean, in that one, I didn't mention it at the last one, but I thought that one would be a great one for you guys to have your demo, your battery solar demo at, and then that thing that Scott and Stefan put together of the battery and solar backup and the different things. I don't know how hatched that spreadsheet was, but that I was thinking that would be great for that. But yeah, there's lots of stuff you can do. And I mean, I guess I say this not knowing exactly how supportive this new council is going to be of all of this, but there's a pretty big turnover last night. But you can certainly go forward as if, you know, they're supporting this.
I can throw out one thing. Dave Cardinal brought up to me as a potential priority. I don't know if I agree with him, but he was suggesting, oh, like converting to heat pumps, that's not going to do that much. What he thinks we should really focus on is a school bus, basically observing like all the school drop-off lines, all the gas-powered cars that people are driving a few miles to drop off their kids, and the impact of that. And that if we had a school bus, in his view, that would be very beneficial to sustainability.
Worth studying. An EV school bus could drive up
That's-
Willowbrook and come around Alpine the other way and then drop the kids off at the top of Corte Madera and have them walk into school. So then they'd all be a little bit less ADHD by the time they,
I'm not convinced
Started
people would
class.
actually use it that much, but
Yeah.
maybe they would.
It's also
think-
like, Ronnie, you and I drop our kids off at the same
Bike,
time.
I
I feel
think.
like at least a third of the cars, maybe a quarter of the cars are electric.
Yeah.
You know, and so right off the bat there, you're not making an improvement, you're making things worse by getting a school bus. And then over time, that number is
Well,
going to
yeah.
increase. The proportion of electric cars in Portola Valley of all places is going to increase dramatically because everybody here gets a new car pretty frequently. And they're all going to become electric. So I would imagine that
well,
when
if
you,
the school bus is EV, if it's an electric school bus,
Do they have that?
do they have
Mhm.
that?
they sure
they
do. Some school district, I forget which one, is switching all the way completely to electric school buses.
What, I mean, this is a little off topic. Why isn't there a school bus for this town?
There used to be, but it costs money and it was the school district paying for it, the school bus.
Uh-huh.
And we had massive budget cuts back in the 90s, I guess. And that was one of the first things to go because it just wasn't being used enough, I guess.
Wow.
Or, whatever, because, I don't know. We used to have 200 more kids in the school district than we do today. So there's even fewer kids now. So I don't know if that will change. Probably not, because each time one of these tear downs gets sold, it's replaced by an older couple who don't have kids, they don't have school age kids. So,
And they don't even live here full time.
yeah.
They don't even get their garbage picked up.
I, you know, I
He's
was
dumping it in the
doing
creek.
a cursory look at some of the addresses that didn't have service, and like I'm like, okay, where is it going? Where is it going? Like some of them were the biggest houses I've ever seen, and I'm like, what are they doing with it? Anyway,
Sounds like there's a lot of unoccupied houses.
yeah, perhaps. There is I don't want to get eaten alive for saying this, but there is a Samtrans bus, or was. I know that they're still doing the crosswalk as of today, so I'm guessing it still exists, but there is a Samtrans bus that its only function is to pick up and take kids to school in Portola Valley and to Woodside High. So it doesn't actually connect with anything else.
I think they've eliminated the Woodside High one. I think the only one that's left is the one that comes from Skyline down Portola Road, right to Corte Madera and then Ormondale.
Okay.
And I think they're planning to eliminate that as well, because there's just not enough demand for it.
Yeah, I mean, we've always wondered how they managed to
I mean-
justify that, but
I mean, I told them that Samtrans, they should drive up, you probably won't like this, Ronnie, but they should take the route through Willowbrook up and then drop kids off at the top of Corte Madera Road. And then drive down, because what happens with the traffic, it's so bad. I mean, I haven't been in the school district now for a decade, I guess, but back in the day when I was, the traffic would be so bad that the Samtrans bus would have massive delays just getting from Corte Madera to the stop sign and then to make that left turn, because it's so backed up with traffic. that it would just, it was just a mess. I mean, I don't know if it's still the case, but it was just very frustrating, I think, for Samtrans to have to add essentially an hour to the guy that they were paying, or the gal that they were paying to drive, just because of bad traffic at that stop sign. So I don't know if it's still that way, but yeah, so the last I'd heard, they were planning to eliminate it totally. So
do we think that that's worth looking into, Ronnie? See what the interest is in a school bus? I guess you'd have to kind of look at how many people think they would use it, how far they drive, what kind of car they drive, all that kind of stuff, right?
and what route it would take.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I was, even to start off with, is it really the case that that would be a large impact compared to, I don't know, other things like heat pump or it didn't, yeah, I'm just, I don't know how large a impact the it's just a few miles that people are taking their kids to school, but
Yeah.
You could put a pin in it and we could look at it when we look at the
Yeah.
measures for the climate action plan. And
Okay.
I'll add to the list of the measures for the consultant a public school bus and see if they have some quantification of that we can put in there.
Great.
And it might even make more sense to have every kid have an e-bike.
Yeah. And then that's got all the other benefits of kids getting off their butts, and
I know when my kid, they brought at one of the picnics a few years ago, when I had a little kid. He was, I don't know how old he was, middle school or late elementary. Anyway, at the picnic, we had an e-bike manufacturer, or somebody came to the picnic and they had one there, a couple there that people could try out. And he literally tried it out they had to go chase after him because he wouldn't give it back. So he was on there for like 20 minutes zinging around. And I think the guy got a little annoyed, but he had a blast. So for sure there would be big demand.
all right, well, let's talk about it. And then
Let's move on.
yeah, let's move on.
Thank you.
The next thing on the agenda is discussion of En-ROADS. En-ROADS. So did we decide last time that we want to do it? Anybody?
What is doing it mean?
Put
I don't
one
think we
on
did
for
decide, right?
put one on for the community, have him come and do it for the town.
I didn't get to that meeting, but what was your take on it? This is the guy that, how much you have to tweak something to see,
Yeah.
I bet it was pretty eye-opening that it's going to take, that you can change a lot of stuff and it moves the needle not very much. Was that what the take home was?
Yes.
Yeah, the take home is basically that, carbon tax is big and leaving fossil fuels in the ground is big. And that a lot of things have a big effect in the beginning, and then the more you do it, it really tapers off. And that it's got to be a multifaceted approach. It's got to be more.
It's got to
than
be a
one.
global thing where leaders take charge, and an individual has pretty limited effect on this.
He,
So it's a little bit depressing to an individual.
well,
My thoughts about this are that it's a really big deal that you're going to get people who come who are already somewhat converted, and you might just educate them somewhat. But the flip side of that is I think that's a lot of what we're doing here, is that we're taking people who are already partially interested and just educating them a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so in some ways,
Well, that's the people who show up at the things we give and do already. We're
Yeah.
not reaching, we're reaching 20% max, maybe. There's 80% that we haven't found the way to get to them yet.
So what do you guys
Just,
think? You think it's a worthwhile thing to try?
just to mention for Levy, he had so the part one was what you saw last time, more or less, and he had a part two. which I thought kind of came off a little weird, but his part two was basically trying to
Yeah.
encourage people to become climate activists in different venues. And he talked about one venue that he's involved with for climate activism. Am I using the right term? Was it climate
Yeah.
activist or
Yeah.
climate action?
Citizens
or-
Climate Lobby.
Yeah. And so like his part two of the presentation is like talking about that and like how to join a local chapter and, you know, drive change. Basically that's where he was trying to encourage people to go to drive change by talking to their government officials and so on and so forth.
I have to agree with the comment that somebody brought up, though, that I think the Citizens Climate Lobby, and I looked at joining them a few years ago and was a little disillusioned. And they basically write letters and communicate with politicians. And I don't know that there's a great advantage of doing that in California, and certainly in the Bay Area, that I don't think we're convincing people to do things that they aren't going to do already. And so I think, so I ended up not joining that group, but I think there's some limited utility in that, which somebody else brought up, and I think it's a good point.
Oh, but Jay, you can always use an address in Tennessee or Florida.
Or I could leave my house fallow here and move to Tennessee.
Well, you can write letters to whoever you want, right?
Yeah.
No, but they only listen to letters from your district. So
My-
that's what I'm saying. You just pick an address for a mobile home in some area in the Midwest and you send your letters.
My sister-in-law worked.
Or you,
My sister-in-law worked in Congress for two different representatives for many years. And most of the time, nobody cares what we write. It doesn't matter what our address is, you know, most of the time there's some college kid who looks at it and then puts it in the garbage. And that's what I learned. And I wasn't real surprised. So yeah, it was interesting, Ronnie. It felt like the second half felt a little bit like getting me to buy a timeshare, you know? But
Bitcoin.
but
I mean, yeah.
do we want to say yay or nay? What do you guys think?
Well, I guess the other thing is it sounds like he's going to do it regardless, right? I mean,
Okay.
that's my impression. Well, that he'll just keep giving the seminars on his own, and so that's.
But if
well,
we
I
want
think
to
it would certainly have
sponsor
more
it
reach.
and
Yeah.
put out a
Yeah.
thing that says, hey, the committee recommends, you know, suggests you come to this thing, you know, you could have an in-person component to it, you know. I think an in-person thing, if we're going to do an in-person thing, would be fun, because then it's just more interactive, and you get somebody saying, no, move that one, not that one, you know. And
I thought it was over. I enjoyed it. I mean,
Mhm.
I think I learned some stuff.
I thought it was
I
quite
almost think if we
informative.
would've-
Yeah.
If we would have just like advertised that session itself a little bit more, that kind of probably would have accomplished the goal.
Well,
I
I
think-
think it's worthwhile to have just the first section, and then the second part could be a much shorter thing, as in if you want to continue this sort of thing and you're interested in doing the lobbying section, then these are the resources available, but have it be less of a emphasis and have more of an emphasis on playing with the tool.
I
And
think there's
just-
also the hidden advantage that if you do something like this in person, then we get to meet more people. We have more potential members. And I think it's whatever the goal is, I think it's accomplished better if it's in person. And certainly a networking thing where we can increase visibility, and just talking to people face to face is always, you get more done.
Mhm.
Do you think people would show up?
I think a few people would show up. And that might be a
I think
higher
we,
yield thing than otherwise.
I mean, in the past, you know, pre-plague, attendance was very high at various evening activities. You know, people were kind of starved for interaction and community. This was even pre-pandemic. So now I think as long as the pandemic slows down, if it ever does, then I think there's even more demand for community events. So you know.
You have
certain
one and then you
stuff.
advertise you're gonna raffle off a bunch of Ronnie's gadgets.
Yeah, yeah, that
Mhm.
would be an idea. The question though I have is, I don't think the town center has any way of blocking the light coming in, correct? We still don't have shades or anything on the windows, so that limits a little bit screens.
Hmm.
In the past, when we talked about having movie night, it could only be done during the winter months because with the time changes and whatever, if there's sunlight coming into the town center, then it sort of was too bright, but maybe if we're using one of the classrooms instead of the main hall, maybe that has better ways of darkening it a bit. I don't know. Brandy, what's no?
Not really. I mean, we had at one point budgeted shades for the Buckeye room, but the Buckeye room is really tiny and it's not, I mean, you could only fit like 20 people in there comfortably. So you either have to have it, yeah, I mean, you basically need to do it before the time changes because what happens is the sun literally sets right behind it and just goes right across where you have the screen. There is like Saturday mornings are kind of okay. I mean, I don't know if anybody wants, to do that, but I think that like one of the most successful things that I think I participated in as far as outreach was that movie series that we had that was like, it was like a cup and a movie. I forget what we called it. It was a clever name, but basically bring your cup, we'll have tea and coffee and bring some food to share. And then we had a movie and that really engaged people. It didn't feel like we were preaching to the choir. I saw, people would come and it was people that we wouldn't always see. But yeah, it's a very challenging with the light in the community hall. And I never figured out a way to solve it because you can't shade the windows that you would need to shade to block the light were such an odd shape and up so high. Now, maybe there's some crazy window film now where you can put it on and touch a button and it would work and that would be amazing. But yeah, it really limits what you can do in there during the summer.
Can we do it at somebody's house? I mean, I'm not asking anyone to volunteer, but is that like something that would be
think you
logistically
can.
possible via the town? Because I watch movies on my garage door on a projector with my kids.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. We've done lots. It's just more like your tolerance for having
Yeah.
people there. I mean, and what we have done in the past with stuff like that is you can have people require people to sign up, and then you only release your address to the people once they've signed up. So you have some kind of a
And
little
they
bit.
sign a liability form.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't there some liability or insurance thing with having something like that at your house?
I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, for the green not the green fair, for the landscape, what is that thing we used to? we
Garden
would-
tour.
Garden tour, there was a liability form that when you signed up, you were essentially signing up that you weren't going to sue the homeowner if you tripped up.
Yeah, I
whatever.
guess you'd have to do. I didn't think. I mean, I was kind of. I guess
Well-
you'd want that. You just have it in. We would just put it within the registration or
Well,
whatever.
what about making, you said Saturday mornings were because of the sun. What about doing that?
Yes, I mean Saturday mornings. I would want someone to go test it because I can't remember. I can't entirely remember, but I believe Saturday, or a morning. Well, they don't rent the hall on Sundays, but a morning is better because the sun is rising. It's rising on the other side. It's not setting right behind it.
Why don't we do like a Saturday morning, bring your cup and food and we raffle off Ronnie?
and I will tell you that one of the other most successful things was a collaboration with Cal Water where we gave away little tiny native plants, and it was some kind of lecture first thing Saturday morning. Like if you do it at like 9:30 or 10, people, it doesn't ruin their day. They
Oh.
and if you give something away free, like even if it's just the smallest thing, people are all over it.
Okay.
But I think that was in the Hawkeye. Was that not in the Hawkeye room?
No, that was in the community hall.
Oh,
Buckeye. It's
oh, Buckeye.
they're all named after trees.
Trees,
The alder
yeah.
room, the Buckeye room, the coffee berry room.
So who's the contact person for this again? Which of us is the contact person? Is it Scott?
I guess it was Scott, yeah.
Okay. So, do we want to try to do this Saturday morning? Anyone have any objection or strong feelings for or against?
I think it's.
I
would
just
be
one
useful
thought,
to-
Rebecca, you mentioned doing more of the first part and less of the second. I don't know how much control we really have. We're just sort of giving him the audience, I think. I guess we
Yeah, I don't
could,
know.
we can make suggestions, right?
I would hope he'd be open to that, it's a very educated audience that probably already knows a lot of their options and doesn't want to feel preached to. And I think that anybody who wants to really create change understands that they need to speak differently to different audiences and take feedback.
Yep.
So should we ask Scott to talk to Steve
Yeah.
about what options make the most sense in terms of, and suggest the Saturday morning? I mean, would we do this in February, March, or? Do we?
February.
I mean, if it's February, March, I guess I don't see why we couldn't do a weekday evening. I mean, the sun sets,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's better.
Well, we could just have him talk to Steve and find out what the best timing was.
Sure.
But if we want to do it in the evening, then we got to do it soon.
And then just be sure to loop in, I think Carrie, the communications person, is who manages the scheduling of events at the town center now. So just be sure to loop her in.
Anything else for En-ROADS? So the next is the safety element, and we never got, to my understanding, responses from the questions that our committee posed last meeting. Unless someone
Right,
else
they're not
has-
out yet. They'll come out as like they called it a FAQ, but it's, basically answers to all the questions that all the committees asked, but that hasn't come out yet.
Okay, so I think we can table this till next time. Agree, everyone?
Kind of, except
Huh.
the officially they're asking for us to submit our comments. Like, so we asked the questions, they're asking for the comments by, I think it's January 14th, which is actually before our next meeting. And I was on an email where Scott asked them about this. And I mean, they were saying like, okay, ideally we want you to submit it by January 14th so the staff can like consider your comments in the next step or whatever. But I think they said if we submitted them on the January 19th, which is when our next meeting was, they would also be able to incorporate it. So yes, I mean, it seems like we table it, but
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna have a lot of time to kind of
Yeah.
iterate on it.
So then we should maybe have homework to come prepared regardless of answers to the questions we previously asked with new
Yeah, well, we'll have the
the
questions
comments.
answered, but then I guess at our next meeting, whatever comments we're gonna actually have for the safety element, I think would probably have to be done on that meeting or around then.
Okay. Next meeting is January 19th. My understanding is that is it correct that this is not a hybrid meeting? Or that it is
We
a hybrid meeting?
you skipped E. E is where we had to decide. Do you see that? 6E.
Yes, it says, should we go to hybrid meetings with some number of resident? Well, we have to have an in-person component starting in January, correct? I believe that's the
60,
policy.
you're talking about a previous meetings minutes?
No, just 6E. Jay skipped
60
it.
is the En-ROADS.
No,
Yeah,
that's
we have
6F.
different versions. This was removed from. Rebecca, you're looking at the same thing I'm looking at, which was the previous version, and I believe this was removed
Oh, oh,
because the
really?
policy. What we were told, because this was supposed to be in
Oh.
person, and I said I can't be there in person tonight, and that was apparently a problem. And so this is our last meeting without an in-person component, is my understanding. Brandy, do you have anything on that?
Oh, okay.
I do not give, I'm in the, because I work entirely remotely, I don't have anything. I don't know, sorry.
Well, bless you. So we need to, I believe that whoever's running the meeting or someone needs to be there. So I think we're required to do either hybrid or all in person beginning in January.
Well, I think it should be hybrid, but
I certainly agree.
Yeah, I hope it's hybrid. I mean, it's easy what I would say is that it's easy to do that because the council chamber is set up for it. It's harder to do the hybrid where you're in person. It's easier to do the hybrid where you have video, although it likely adds, as you've seen, wildness, the ability for wildness that the in-person meeting doesn't always engender.
What was your understanding, Jay, of why the
I,
agenda item was removed? The question on should it be?
because I guess we don't
I-
have a choice or something.
correct.
Let me see if I can find that email. I
And-
saw the email, but
And it was your understanding that we don't have a choice because it's going to it is going to be hybrid, or because it's not going to be hybrid, or
There has to be an in-person component beginning January.
and I think it's because of my guess would be state law. I know that the council has to start being present in March. Like the whole council has to be at the
Yeah.
dais.
So Melissa says, I confirmed with Jeremy, this meeting can be held virtually. That's today. But in January, the meeting will be hybrid.
Okay.
And it says it needs to be, in a previous email from her said, starting in January, will need to be hybrid or be canceled. Virtual will no longer be available. So that, I assume that means virtual only exclusively.
and that was a topic before,
Oh, yeah,
and
here.
Scott had said that he would commit that at least he would be there. I mean, one to like set up the display and stuff, but I think with that aspect that at least one person had to be there. And so it sounds, I mean, that's the requirement, right? But that she was talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. So she thought I was going to be there
Right.
for tonight, and I hadn't understood that, and I couldn't be there. So. But
And
that's
it
what,
is state law. It is state law that's requiring it, not the town.
Okay, so what's the question here? So,
Well, there's
well,
no question. It was
I think we
removed from
weren't
the
supposed to
agenda.
really address this. I think we were going to talk about it, and now we have an understanding that it is the law and it will be hybrid or it won't happen. So,
okay,
so we could say in terms of the minutes that we reinforced we reviewed the state law, and that we
I
need,
mean, would people plan to come in person, or would people plan to do a mix, or?
I can definitely tell you that back in the day, it was much more congenial and nicer to be in person, but of course that we weren't facing a tridemic at the time.
And
So,
we were meeting in the daytime, not at night. Remember?
yeah. Well,
that
we
was-
were, yes, but that's not an option for us. But you're saying Scott is planning to be there pretty much every time. So, I mean, I think I would probably plan to show up as well in general, unless I'm not in this country or whatever, but
I would try to as well, but I think I could probably be maybe 50-50.
but we only need one person to commit each month. So we just have to make sure we plan for who's going to be there. A minimum of one person.
And at least as far as what I remember, Scott, I thought said that he was going to do that.
Okay. Item number 7, proposed additional agenda topics for next meeting.
So we talked about the safety element has to be discussed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like number 1. I think we can definitely review the En-ROADS thing and review and with En-ROADS, what format we would want, if we want to use any money to get any raffle prizes, et cetera, that kind of thing. And then e-bike, any other gadgetry that we can loan out from the library.
And
I wanna-
maybe a home intel outreach.
I'm not sure. What does that mean?
Oh, what I said?
Yes.
Oh, if you all want to sponsor like a letter or postcard going out telling folks about the home intel program.
Oh, I think that's premature. I really think we need to first talk to them
Talk to them. Okay.
and have them come and do a presentation to the committee about whatever update, and then we can make a decision about outreach. How does everybody else feel about that?
That sounds reasonable.
Sounds like a plan.
Well, and I mean, at least in my current plan, I have at least some outreach about it in the newsletter. But
Yeah.
I understand it's not the same thing that you're talking about, Brandy.
No. Outreach in terms of spending money, as in sending postcards and whatnot.
Yeah.
The next meeting is January 19th. That will be hybrid. Does anybody have anything else to say before we make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering about the wildfire fair, if we need to start planning for that, or if that's too early, January, February, March, it's April, right? So 4 months. I can put it on there and then Scott can decide.
Sure. Yeah, we're almost 2 hours in.
Oh, wow, okay.
Time flies.
Hmm.
I think you
Okay.
meant Rebecca just for the next meeting topics, right?
Yes, of course. Okay,
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Does anybody motion to adjourn?
I do.
Does anyone
Second.
second? Thank you. We're adjourned.
I'm doing great.
Happy holidays,
Happy
everybody.
holidays. Yes.
Happy
Take
holidays,
care.
Holidays.
yes.
Right.
All right, bye.